Good evening, everyone. A good Tavach. It is Motzei Shabbos. The date is August 21st. I believe it's the 14th of Elul. And we have one of my favorite weather patterns which are developing for this upcoming week. And it's really quite amazing because we are in the final 10 days of August, which in the meteorological summer, that means we only have 10 days left to the summer. And we are still seeing a persistent summer weather pattern that just isn't budging. We have a Bermuda high pressure system off on the East Coast, hurricanes and tropical storms traveling all over the place, yet this Bermuda high remains intact, it remains strong, and it continues to pump very humid air into the East Coast and into the Midwest. High pressure over the Midwest. Tomorrow we're going to have a high pressure system bringing cooler air, but that quickly moves off to the east. Then we get onto the return flow. We have a high pressure system situates itself over the Midwest for most of this week. We have the Bermuda high pumping very humid air into this high pressure system over in the Midwest, and we will see a continuation of heat and humidity here in the Midwest. What is unique about this, I think, is that usually this time of the year when you get a Canadian cold front, the system, the high pressure system, lasts for several days. Actually, when you get a Canadian cold front any time of the year, the high pressure system generally lasts for several days. We would expect to see high temperatures in the 70s for a few days after getting a Canadian cold front, especially this late in the season, the final 10 days of August. This Canadian cold front will be affecting the Chicago area for one day with cooler weather, and even that one day, temperatures are still forecast to remain in the 80s, which is still normal, not even below normal, still normal. Temperatures might even be above normal, which makes a person wonder, how do we come up with these normal temperatures? Normal temperature, normal high, I believe, is 81 degrees for the Chicago area, possibly 82 degrees this time of the year. The way that happens is you have plenty of days which have a Canadian high pressure where highs are in the mid-70s, and then other days where highs are in the mid or upper 80s due to the influence of hot and humid air when we are south of the jet stream. But this year we are just continuously south of the jet stream, and even when we are under the influence of the Canadian high, it's either short, or even if it is 4 days, temperatures remain at 80 degrees or higher, like we saw last week. Friday, a week ago Friday, temperatures were in the mid-80s. Shabbos, high of 80 degrees, Sunday 80 degrees, and Monday 80 degrees on the dot. Each day 80 degrees on the dot. We have another very remarkable thing that happened today. Warmest temperature today, the high today was 88 degrees. That occurred at 10-something this morning. Coldest temperature, I think, was 72 degrees, and that occurred in the mid-afternoon. Just very weird, very unique situation. High temperature here in the Chicago area went into the low 90s yesterday for the 17th time this year. High temperature was 91 degrees. It's the 17th time we've seen a high temperature of 90 degrees or higher. Midway hit 90 degrees on Thursday, and that was the 20th time that they have been at 90 degrees or higher. We are getting ready for a very humid week for the third week in a row. We're going to see the dew points expected to climb even higher this week than last week. Dew points will be similar this week to what they were 2 weeks ago. Expected maximum dew point here in Chicago, just unbelievable again. And if it's not unbelievable, it's because we've lost our sensitivity to what a humid air mass is, because it's just been so humid. It's so humid. The dew point expected to hit 78 degrees probably on Wednesday. Dew point of 78 degrees. Now, the National Weather Service is putting in this real mind-boggling shocker that I cannot figure out, no matter how hard I try to figure it out. They put in their forecast discussion that the wet bulb temperature will be between 90 and 92 degrees this week, and I can't figure out how that's possible. I've tried all different formulas and everything, and I come up with the maximum wet bulb temperature of 85 degrees at the max. I just don't know how they are coming up with 90 to 92 degrees. That's very, very dangerous stuff. If you have a wet bulb temperature of 90 degrees, that means in the sun, the wet bulb temperature would be 90 degrees. Heat indices this week, well, the day when we're going to be having dew points of 78 degrees. High temperatures expected to be in the low 90s, so that would put us at a heat index somewhere between 105 and 110 degrees. But that's going to be the maximum heat index for the week. There probably will be some isolated spots that have heat indices higher than 110. But one thing you have to keep in mind is that the heat index chart was made for winds of 5.6 miles per hour. The evaporative cooling effect increases by 2 degrees higher when we're speaking about a Chicago wind of about 13 miles an hour. That combined with the wind itself probably will make the temperatures feel about 3 degrees cooler than what the heat index says it will be. So heat index generally, we'll say heat index generally, maximum heat index probably about 100 or a little bit higher, somewhere between 100 and 105. So that would feel more like between 97 and 102. And that would happen every day for about 2 or 3 hours or so. There probably will be a heat advisory issued at some point. When you head down into the southern states, there already are heat advisories in effect. It's another real humid week down there as well. Dew points in the mid to upper 70s. Heat indices also between 105 and 110 degrees. St. Louis expected to have highs in the mid-90s for several days this week. Heat index above 105 there as well. The East Coast, we have Tropical Storm Henry, which, according to the chart I saw, it is a tropical storm. It is not a hurricane, but some of the articles say Hurricane Henry will be hitting the New England area tomorrow. So I don't know if it's going to be a tropical storm or hurricane. It's not expected to strengthen, but they are telling people to prepare as if it is a Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane. Some of the hazards mentioned are flooding, 6 to 10 inches of rain, along with possible tornadoes. Warmest temperature in the United States yesterday was 108 degrees. Coldest temperature was 22 degrees. The one correction I want to make from a previous podcast, the highest dew point ever in Chicago was 83 degrees. That part was correct, but it occurred in the year 1999, not during the heat wave of 1995. I'm sure during that heat wave it came very close to a dew point of 83, but it was not that year when the dew point actually hit 83 degrees. We will likely see parts of the Midwest reach dew points in the low 80s this week. 2 weeks ago, we were talking mid-80s. It went into the mid-80s for a couple cities in Iowa. And if it happened once, it could happen again. But we are heading into really the final days of summer. So the air temperatures are a little bit cooler. In regards to dew points, I don't know. I don't know how dew points measure up as the summer gets, as you get further into the summer. But I do know after the corn crop is harvested in the month of September, those dew points go down. And sometimes as a result of that, the temperatures actually go up. So again, we are headed in for a week of my favorite weather pattern when summer continues and the Canadian air tries to get in here, but it just doesn't. It tries to get in here and it almost does, but it kind of does, but it just isn't here long enough for us to really notice it, except if you are standing near Lake Michigan. The one last thing I would like to mention is that the swimming conditions on Lake Michigan here in Chicago beaches is life-threatening at the moment. It's going to be life-threatening for tomorrow, and then things will improve after that. Daytime high temperatures tomorrow, highs in the low 80s here in Chicago as that cooler air moves in, high temperatures mid-70s at the beaches. Monday, we see that warm up with high temperatures in the mid-80s to around 90 degrees. Tuesday, Wednesday, temperatures highs in the low 90s with heat indices around 105 degrees. Temperatures might feel closer to 102 degrees here in the Chicago area as opposed to a city like St. Louis where the heat index and the real field temperature would be the same. In the shade, in the sun, temperatures would feel probably about 10 degrees warmer than what they actually are in a city like St. Louis. The winds tend to be lighter over there. Thursday, high temperatures ranging from the mid-80s to the low 90s, probably low 90s. Tom Skilling is calling it for highs in the low 90s. And then Friday and Shabbos, high temperatures in the mid-80s. Temperatures again get a little bit cooler towards the very end of the week, but the heat and humidity is expected to return for next week. The outlook for the next 3 months, above normal temperatures with near normal precipitation. We are dealing with a time of the year that once a real solid Canadian air mass takes over, it pretty much brings an end to the summer heat, and that's when the summer season ends. Pretty much it will come back every now and then for a few days, every here and there in the month of September, but that's pretty much when it ends. And this year, we are not seeing that. We are seeing a continuation of heat and humidity, very high humidity, dew points in the mid, eventually going into the upper 70s on Wednesday afternoon. Everyone enjoy the final days of summer. And there's always this fantasy that this weather pattern will continue through the winter. Now let's say it does. Let's say it does continue through the winter. Those high temperatures, if this weather pattern continues through the winter, the high temperatures in January will be in the low 60s, low temperatures in the low 40s. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? But we'll have to wait and see. I don't know if it's happened before. It has not happened in the Chicago record history. The closest thing we had was the year of 2012, but that weather pattern did not make it through January, but it redeveloped again in the month of March. Everyone have a great week and enjoy the weather.